Is NYC gonna birth that rapper's rapper like they've always had? The rapper who dominates on songs, dominates more or less in the charts, and has an influence in the rap game. I'm speaking from a London perspective. So I'm a London person, London born and bred, right? So I can only speak from the perspective of what I saw when I grew up and the effect that it had musically from a New York rapper on the music industry and also in rap on other rappers in general, right? So I want to speak on rappers from the New York area, all the boroughs, all the five boroughs. I want to speak on where is that rapper who is going to fly the flag in the next couple of years and represent like how rappers of yesteryear represented. I look at the game, I look at what's out right now, I look at what's been out for a number of years. Rappers from New York, yeah, they've come, they've done their thing, they've made good albums. There's a few top of the head, Griselda. We know what they do, you know. We know what rappers like Don Q do. If you know, you know. We know rappers have come and managed to make, noise in the game. But I'm talking about the rappers, and I don't want to compare rappers from yesteryear to today because there was a different kind of industry, there was a different kind of way labels used to promote, used to have budgets that will push certain artists. But I want to speak about rappers who had style from a dress sense, rappers who had flow, lyrics, speaking about different things on records where they showed their versatility from different subject matters. We had a Biggie, I say we, you guys had a Biggie in New York. You had a Nas, you had a Rakim, you had a Big Pun, you had all the rappers that evoked style, evoked the ability to rap in ways where they can have one song that can be commercially viable, hit the charts, do well, and then have music that can also do well from a street level. Where are the rappers that have that kind of ability to brand themselves in ways where they can get back into the charts and be effective in the game like they once did? The 50 Cents, the Jay-Z's, the rappers, the DMX's. Are there talent within New York that maybe is undiscovered or maybe doesn't have the team to push them in those kind of ways? Or is it just because literally the new artists or the new people coming up are not thinking in that kind of way? Because you've got to question it. New York has always had people, rappers who have made waves, made commercial waves, but also made the ability to fly the flag from a rapping perspective. Who really gets busy? It was always about New York getting busy when it comes to the bars. It was always about them having lyrics in ways where you have to go and rewind some of the lyrics back to say, what did he just say? What did that rapper like? Whoa, Mob Deep. Like so many rappers who set a pace, set a trend of spitting, but then being able to make commercially viable music. LL Cool J. I'm just naming names from the top of the head that I grew up on. Is there an issue with maybe the lack of push from local DJs? Is there an issue with the artists not understanding how to brand themselves properly? Is there an issue with the production, the type of beats that people are requesting, or producers? There's a lot of questions. Obviously, labels need to also be looked into as well. Independent artists, how is their team assembled? Are people privy to what it is required to actually be able to make something that's viable? What sound are New York generating going forward? Are they generating a new sound? Because I remember, or we should remember, if rap a couple of years ago, drill was a thing in New York. Pop Smoke was leading that. He was the last person I would say that had that potential to go to a different level. He was moving in that direction. But where are the rappers who have that aura, if you want to say, plus the lyrics, plus the flows, plus the different subject matters in music. And then on top of that, being influential in rap like they once were. That's my question. You know, and I'm speaking about it, like I say, from this kind of perspective because I grew up on this. I grew up buying CDs. You know, certain CDs I bought, certain CDs people in my family bought, my olders who bought them, you know, who remembers having magazines that had all these rappers dominating from New York. Now, we know there's been one that has done their thing, Nicki Minaj. We know that, right? I'm talking about going forward. Who are the new generation coming up? We grew up on a certain standard from New York, and I believe that standard is no longer where it needs to be. And again, speaking from an outsider looking in, knowing what's going on from a underground perspective in rap. But where are those artists that when you see them, you look at them and say, that's a New Yorker. That's a person that when he raps or she raps, we get that feeling. Where is that from New York? Like, what is the city saying today that is representative of any artist that you look at and say, that's New York, and they're flying the flag in rap in ways where they're becoming or could be influential? Where are those artists? Who are the could be's even? You know, we've had rappers in New York years ago, you know, and I would probably say that they're not the newer sort of era, but they are to an extent. ASAP Rocky was doing his thing when he had, you know, the mob, and now he's doing his obviously his own thing, but ASAP Rocky was one, you know. You had other artists that came through. Dave East. When I first saw Dave East, I looked at Dave East and thought he was gonna be the person to fly the flag. Not saying he had to fly the flag, but I thought just by default, I thought he had the music, the look that I'm sure people would gravitate to, right? He had the ability, I think, that can do songs for the ladies, do songs from a street perspective, right? So there's been people, maybe there's been issues behind the scenes we don't know of, but New York as a whole, all the boroughs, I believe, need to get to a point where there has to be an inquest. It has to be. New York has always had that guy, the rapper's rapper. You know, as Nas once said, I'm the rapper's rapper, GODSONDO, be none after. Like, people were keen on rapping in a certain way. I think that's missing. People wanted to say the best things. You know, people wanted to literally take from New York. How much style was Lil Wayne adopting from New York years ago when he was on top? You know, New York had influence, style, rap style, dress sense, all of that. Now it's just a city with boroughs and a few rappers coming here and there, but they're not really doing, in my opinion, what they can do. They can do better. Yes, I'm saying that because I put New York on a high level and a high standard. So there's a lot of things that are, you know, prevailing into why maybe New York isn't where it once were. Obviously, sounds became more regional. You know, New York at one time, or even people used to say 50 Cent was contributing to why New York weren't where it was because of the beef, but I don't agree completely with that. I think New York artists still had a duty to make music that was on a level that was commercially viable. I think a lot of artists, and I think New York got a little bit complacent. The South were bubbling up in the early 2000s, bubbling, just making noise quietly, quietly until officially they broke through. And I think New York and the impact that New York once had, they took it for granted. 50 Cent was the biggest and the last biggest on a big level, you know, and he was different. He could make music for the streets, he can make music commercially viable. You know, he had the charisma. This is the stuff I'm talking about. Artists that have that X factor. Whether you're going to have to develop it again, whether it's going to take many years for it to come to that point, something needs to get done, because I think it's not good enough for New York to not have artists potentially coming to that point to be that next person. And we can just go by only artists from yesteryear and say, oh, when that person came out, it was good. When 50, when Jay, when. No, there has to be some progression, some investment. But who is that person that has the style? Because New York has always had style, has the lyrical ability, can make transitions into making commercially viable music, plus music that is more geared towards the street. Doesn't have to be, but more often than not, rappers come from that element, the street element. So being able to make that kind of music and then be influential in rap in general, that's the question. Or those are the points I want to make, because I thought about this and I thought US rap is being dominated for many years, by the South. Midwest came through, West are here doing their thing. One of the main guys, we know who he is, Kendrick Lamar. So there's other areas and regions, and there are rappers in New York. Let's not get that confused. But who is that rapper's rapper? I think, as I was saying earlier, there has to be some questions and some investment and some understanding of what direction your music sound is going into. Because the drill for me didn't have enough to make that jump into the commercial world. It just wasn't sounding commercially viable. That is not the type of music. You need to have something that hits, something that can be played in clubs, something that can be played, in the whip, something that can be played any sort of day, any time, something that is versatile. So when you hear it, you just know, okay, that is the music that I can play at this time of the day, at this time of my life. So these are the questions and these are the things actually that I think New York have to look into. There has to be a coming together. And again, also actually thinking of it, DJs. DJs of yesteryear pushed New York artists. Now there has to be new DJs coming through. We can't keep saying, okay, the Flex, Funk Flex, Cypher Sounds, whoever that has pushed New York music over the years, they can't continually be the only people responsible, because time moves. People get older, There has to be a new influx of DJs putting it upon themselves. Again, this is outside looking in. Maybe they are, but putting it upon themselves to push artists who have viability and have that ability to make that transition, or the artists that they believe have the ability to make that transition. There has to be a refining of the production, so then people can say, okay, that's from New York. Because you can kind of gain an understanding of when you hear other productions or other music from other areas. Okay, that's kind of like from the South, that's kind of like from Midwest, that's from West. New York doesn't have that currently. So it'll be interesting to find out what people think about this. Where is the rapper's rapper from New York that can dominate, that can really spit, can make different types of music viable to all ages for the most part, or for a certain age group? I would say from a certain teen age all the way to 30s plus. Where is that artist that has that commercial viability, that charisma? Where is it? And if it is there, New York need to push and promote somebody that they believe, or people that they believe are next up, because New York have always had that. But it'll be interesting to hear what people think. Like the video, and yeah, tell me what you guys think about this too.